afternoon, everyone. Welcome to KHM Today, your weekly resource for industry news and straight up fun. I'm your host, Carolyn, and I'm so happy to be with you all today on November 6th, 2024. You guys, I woke up this morning to the weatherman saying it's our first snow in Denver. And when I look outside, I have 6 inches of snow and it's still coming down. Hence the big poopy sweater this morning. And I've got my space heater on. So 'tis the season. It's starting and the slopes are open, which makes it even better. I hope you're all having a great day. It is National Stress Awareness Day. So this day is all about honing your ability to choose one thought over another and in an effort to push that stress off to the side and move it away. So think about some of the things that you do to relieve some stress. And in our industry, it's really important that you not only think about these things, but also practice them, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. So things like meditation, yoga, outdoor activities, even though it's cold outside, just going around and, even shoveling for 5 minutes. Not that I did that, but let's just say I did, is one of those things that will help relieve the stress. Play with your kids, online shop. I would say maybe not scroll through Facebook or Instagram, but sometimes that's stress relieving for some. So, think about those activities and make it a part of your everyday work life and living to practice some of those. Hi, Sadie. It's great to see you guys. Please let us know that you're here today. So let's find out how our first guest helps relieve stress. Please welcome Amanda Morales with Virgin Voyages. Hello, Amanda.
Hi, how's it going today?
It's your first time on the show and you have recently moved. So, what are you doing to relieve the stress of move and work all at the same time?
You see, finding balance is one of those things that I feel is so hard, but I personally love doing group fitness classes. I love having that hour for myself and just not having to think about it and just doing whatever the coach tells me. So that's a big way. I actually have a pool as well. So I'm no stranger to a little, pool time in the evening, sometimes a little night dip. So lots of de-stressing going on during a high stress time in my life, but so happy to be here. So excited for my first KHM today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you as well. So you mentioned group fitness. So we're going to jump to bullet point number 3, because when we think about Virgin Voyages and I think about the images that agents have posted and the images and the YouTube videos, group fitness is kind of your thing. And other cruise lines like have it. But to be honest, and I love all of our partners, when I saw the bungee, the boxing, like that was the first time where I was ever like, okay, I'm signing up for that while I'm on vacation. So talk to us about some of those fun things that we can do on your ships to de-stress.
So we have so many different options, and our fitness classes are actually part of our always included luxury, which means that there's no additional cost to take them. And what I love about just having those creative different classes is that you can try something new without worrying about how much it's going to cost you out of pocket, probably something that would be more expensive on land. So the bungee class is so much fun. I actually did it myself. My first voyage, I did it with my director, Christy. Some of you may have met her before, but we did the bungee class and it was more challenging than I thought it was going to be. So that was fun because again, it was something different, something I totally would have loved to try on land, probably for $30 or $40. I love the 80s VHS workout class, channel your inner Richard Simmons, do something
Yep.
a little different. But even if you want to do your own thing, we have the athletic club area, we have a jogging track, the perch, if you want to do yoga, sometimes even at sunrise, you can do so many different things. But if your idea of stress relief doesn't necessarily require, breaking a sweat, we have a beautiful spa on board as well with our Redemption Spa. We have Gym and Tonic, which is our fitness or our well-being area with a juice bar as well. You can even get a tattoo on board if that's your version of stress relief. Right? Who wants to do that?
Well, we do have one member of the KHM team who that would be her stress relief. Annie, shout out to you. She has often said, if I get an opportunity to sail Virgin, that's what I'm doing. So for her, that would be not me. I'd be more at the bungee classes. Let's talk about the hammocks on board, because if there's one iconic picture that I feel like every single person posts, it's that one.
Yes. So we have majority of the cabins on board the ship are sea views at least, which means that they have a window, but 83% actually have a sea terrace, which is a balcony. And all the balconies, for the most part, have that signature red hammock that you're used to seeing in pictures.
Yeah.
So Instagrammable, but it's actually really cozy too, because you can read a book, you can take a nap, you can just relax. And they're deceiving because they look like they're small, but you can stretch it out and probably even fit more than one person in there. But I really love just relaxing on it. I tend to hog it, which is why I don't like sharing a room whenever I sail
Yeah.
with people, because I just want to be in the hammock all the time, whether I'm coming back from port, just, in the evening, having a glass of wine, balancing it with the hammock. I think it's such a fun, kind of different way. It's just, a piece of furniture, but it's different and it's so nice. It is so relaxing.
Well, it's different than a traditional chair. Maybe there's an ottoman on a balcony. It truly is one of those things that I think if you didn't want to leave your cabin, you have like the best of both worlds. It's kind of like a lounge chair, but you've got your own sea view and it's quiet. And if you don't like a lot of activity, then it's the perfect place for you. Um, Tell me about some of the quiet areas on the ship. Virgin is very much known for being lively, which is amazing. It's fantastic. There's a lot going on, a lot of choice on board. But are there areas that are a little bit more quiet for those that find de-stressing in quiet zones as opposed to an active aerobic class?
Absolutely. And I love addressing this as well. So personally, I'm not a party, loud person either. And because our ships are more yacht-like versus being designed the way that a big, huge ship is, with a big, wide open area, there's 1,000 people, there's, shops in the middle of the ship. We don't have that. And each space is different. So if you're in one area, not feeling the vibe, you can walk into the next room and it's totally different. So for me, my way of unwinding is sometimes listening to live music. If that's not your thing, we have our little mini library area that's in the roundabout. You can do so many different things. There's so many different bars with different, activities that you can choose from. We have an open play arcade on board the ship as well. So that's just letting your inner child free a little bit, another way of de-stressing. So because of the design of the ship, you can find a quiet space pretty much anywhere that you go if you don't like it in one particular area.
When you say open play, does that mean I don't need quarters
You
or
don't need
money?
quarters. You don't need to scan your wearable. You can play Donkey Kong Pac-Man to your heart's content.
No?
Yes. Well, we don't have skee ball. We don't have skee
No
ball.
skill.
No
Okay.
skee ball. But again, those games that you grew up playing, my little shame story of my relaxation was that I sailed with two of my cousins back in July. They had never sailed on Virgin before, and we had plans for dinner. We were going to go watch one of the shows, and we decided to go into the social club right after getting back from port. We were sweaty, just kind of relaxing a little bit, and we decided to start on a 1,000 piece puzzle.
Oh my gosh.
All kind of, competitive. So we stayed there for 5 hours completing said puzzle. We missed dinner, missed the show, but it was so perfect for us in that moment. And it really was a stress relief because we were doing almost like a team building activity together as a
Right.
family. And we're always going to remember that we did that. So many options.
What I think is so fun about that is when people think about cruising, they sometimes have preconceived notions, right? They have these notions about the midnight buffets, um, um, Las Vegas style shows, which there's some element of that still on the cruise ship, but it's more of like what I would consider a late 70s, early 80s kind of idea. And when I am on any ship, I'm always surprised at the variety of venues that really speak to different people. Like the fact that almost every ship I've been on, maybe every ship, has had a library. And when you go past it, there's always at least one person in there. So that's their space. That's what they want to do on their week off. It might not be what you want, it might not be your thing, but that's what they want to do. You found this puzzle and started doing it. Other people might sit there and play Pac-Man or Donkey Kong all week because it pulls out something in them. So I just love the fact that there's variety, there's accessibility, and it really becomes your vacation and not everyone else's vacation.
Absolutely. And it really is so good for multi-generations, and there's something to do for everybody, whether you want to have that lively experience up on the pool deck, whether it's Scarlet Night, pajama party, you want to go to the Manor, which is our nightclub, or listen to live music, anything that you like to do. And I've been in the industry for a while. And when I sailed on Virgin, it was the first time that I truly felt relaxed on vacation. I didn't feel like I had to be doing 1,000 things at once and like there was so much chaos around me. It was just relaxing for me.
So speaking of relaxing, you said you found that you were for the first time you were relaxed ever. That's how I feel about Alaska, which is on the
Coming
horizon.
soon. Yes. So we are so excited that our fourth ladyship, Brilliant Lady, is finally coming out next year. And in 2026, she will be heading to the West Coast and doing her Alaska season out of Seattle. So we just recently announced those itineraries and they will be open for sale on November 13th. So definitely keep an eye out on that. If you have clients who had a Frontier of the Line pass or purchased that early access, they have access already. But for the general public, it'll open November 13th. But another great news story is that we're actually going to be sailing out of Los Angeles as well after Alaska. So finally getting a ship out on the West Coast, and we could not be more thrilled about that.
Do you happen to know, are those Los Angeles itineraries going to be 7-day, 5-day?
So we definitely have some 7 nights, probably mixed in with other lengths. And even same for Alaska, we have 7 nights, but we even have some that are up to 11 nights. So
Really?
definitely a good thing to keep an eye on. And when Brilliant Lady launches, we're doing 4 different Mermaidens, which is our cheeky term for inaugurals. And we'll be sailing out of New York City, Miami, Los Angeles, and Seattle for those. So really small mini seasons for that, but a great opportunity to get your clients on board if they haven't wanted to fly to Florida or Europe to experience our ships.
I think they're going to sell out very, very quickly out of Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
I think that's just going to go like hotcakes. No kids. Yeah. It's great to be a West Coast agent.
It really is. It really is. And, our West Coast sales team out there is also so excited about it. But it is such a different product than what's currently in the Alaska market. It'll be a total game changer. Not that Alaska tends to be overly, congested with kids, but having that different vibe, different experience. I always say that we're a great cruise line for the non-cruiser who has, like you said, those preconceived notions about what cruising is, doesn't want anything to do with that, because we're more like a boutique hotel at sea. And again, the experience is whatever you want to make of it.
Right. What a fabulous description. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now go enjoy the pool. It's 86 degrees out there with 86% humidity. That's okay. Forget about that part and just enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll see you at Crystal 2025.
See you soon.
All right. Take care. Thanks, Amanda.
Bye.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here, Virgin Voyages. Now, for those of you that don't know, I don't know if this has ever come up, but I grew up overseas. I spent 3.5 years living in London with my family when I was much, much younger. And when, I don't know how this happened, Regina, who's one of our guests today, sent me an email and said, hey, I think this would be a great topic for the show. Well, it took a little time to organize and find a few people that kind of had this experience. So please welcome to the show, Regina Dunbar Hendrickson and Shawn Hayes, two of our agents who have similar experiences growing up abroad. Hello, ladies. Welcome.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
I am great, thank you. So, I wanted to talk today about how growing up abroad has really shaped who we are as people and how, our experiences of travel at such a young age really has shown us this career. And somehow the three of us, and when I posted this in our Facebook group, I couldn't believe the number of people that said, me too, me too, me too. I was shocked, right? So as I was mentioning, my dad was in banking. Most people think he was in the military. He wasn't. He was in banking. And we ended up spending 3.5 years in London. And I went to both an American school, which Shawn and I have bonded over, and a British school. And I lived on a street with primarily expats. There were 1 or 2 families that were actually English. The rest were from Exxon, Texaco, Kodak. And so we kind of lived on this American street. And I have always said, and I moved a lot domestically as well, that because of those experiences, as difficult as they were, it allowed me to speak to people early on, right? Because you have to learn to communicate when you're moving a lot, with both my peers and adults at such a young age. But also, it just fostered this love of travel and and this need to be part of this industry. So, Shawn, we're going to start with you. Share a little bit about how you and your background ended up where you are today.
Sure. So I also am automatically assumed a military child, but I wasn't. I'm what they call an airline brat. So my father worked for Trans World Airlines, which kind of sets me back, shows my age a little bit, Trans World Airlines. And his company partnered with Saudi Arabian Airlines when I was a child in the 80s, and we moved to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. So I lived in Jeddah for from the 4th grade through the 9th grade. And because we were an airline family, my parents obviously took advantage of the flying benefits part of their benefit package and showed us the world while we were over there. So being in Saudi Arabia, we were connected very closely with Africa and Europe and Asia. And so they really took advantage of showing us different cultures. And then, of course, being raised in Saudi Arabia, I went to an international school where about 100 different countries were represented, although it was an American school, curriculum school. So I really, at a young age, was fascinated by different cultures and where people were from and traditions, and got really excited about learning about them. So, in a nutshell, because I was able to travel so much living abroad, I also got to go to boarding school because my school ended after 9th grade. So after 9th grade, we all got sent off to boarding schools, and that's when I moved to England, and I lived in London, which is the melting pot of Europe, right? Like everybody that lives in London lives with a lot of different cultures. So I think just being able to independently travel abroad once I moved to Europe was a huge uh, gift because I'm not afraid to travel and experience and learn. And I speak so passionately about the places I've experienced that every time I send a client, I'm sharing my own experiences, which has fueled my business.
Right. Well, and it's that enthusiasm in your voice, even if you hadn't been there. When I see people and I get the opportunity to work with a family and they're taking their kids somewhere for the first time, no matter what age, it always excites me because to me, that is better than any book they could read, any classroom they could be sitting in. It's that real world experience and being able to say, I saw that. I know what that is. Regina, share your experience because you were military.
That's right. My dad was in the United States Air Force, and he met my mom right out of high school, and the two of them fell madly in love. And he said, "I want to take you around the world," and he literally did. We were up at Shawn Air Force Base where I was born, and before we knew it, my dad had gotten orders to go to abroad. So the next thing we knew, we were in England, and England was just absolutely everything you think it is. It's charming, it's sweet, it's uh, proper. It was just a magnificent experience. And my parents believed definitely in living among the locals. So they got a place out of town, several miles. Then we had neighbors that became family. They were grandparents to me. To this day, I have the doll bed and crib that they made me for my dollies. And I used to always have tea and crumpets with them. And to this day, I love bangers and mash. I love everything about that experience. And I have a brother who was born there. And of course, he calls the queen his queen. So, so he's very proud of his dual citizenship. And with that, it was just incredible. But then that's stateside because dad's getting ready to go to Vietnam. And so the next thing we know, we're living out west. And, we had a wonderful experience living out west in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and knowing people there. But before we knew it, dad had come back from Vietnam. We had moved a couple of times stateside. And before we knew it, we were actually in Turkey. And Turkey was beyond amazing. just from the moment we landed to the moment. And it was kind of ironic because my dad was going for food service because that's what he did. But he actually ended up, because they had canceled his orders. We were in Turkey with no orders. And so they said, what do you want to do? And Dad said, I don't know. What do you need? He ended up being a general's aide. And so we got to live on Embassy Row. And it was the most amazing thing you could imagine. We could literally almost touch the Iranian embassy. The Chinese embassy was across the street, a mosque on the other corner. And in the middle of all that, a huge gravel field with this most magnificent tree that the nomads and the peasants and the people passing through would set up camp. And the landlord, Mr. Zeki Bey, and his wife would always have us upstairs on the balcony for tea and Turkish delight. And in the building was, on the bottom floor was my family and another American, a Dutch couple, a British couple, and another American couple. And so we all spent time together. And we had a housekeeper, Fidayet, and she was the most amazing. And she would bring her daughters over so we could play with them. And then we got to, through base rec, we decided we were all going to go to Izmir and Ephesus. And we had a blue Volkswagen bus with blue and white checkered curtains. And as we were driving across country, it was so amazing. You would see all the villagers run out as we were coming into the different villages, and we would stop and get to ride a camel and do some cool things. And we ended up sleeping on the beaches there at Izmir and Ephesus. And it's just those things you can't put into perspective. But they said to my dad, it's time for you to go somewhere else. So after 6 months, we ended up in Aviano, Italy, at the foothill of the Alps. And our Sunday drives were through the Dolomites. You know, it's like amazing. And we had the most magnificent military service school teachers. And my 5th grade teacher, she was amazing. Her sisters and brothers worked in the textile plants in Michigan, and they would send her fabric, and we would write stories about American things that weren't familiar to the Italian kids. And we would make costumes and go to their school and put this on so they could learn about our culture while we were learning about theirs. And my 6th grade teacher, we sold marshmallow treats and popcorn, the popcorn at lunch and the marshmallow treats in the morning. And that allowed all the kids, because, you know, military service, you know, kids, we got to go to Pisa and climb the tower and do it all and stand in front of the Venus de Milo and the birth of Venus and see it all. And when you're in 6th grade, you're like, your mind's processing this. And our Italian teacher that taught us, oh my goodness, she wanted to make sure that we knew who every one of those paintings and who did them. And, you know, she was very tough on our Italian. And even the greater than that was the fact that we lived on a little gravel road, and there were only 3 American families. The rest were Italian, and we had vineyards for our yard, and we would get to help pick the grapes when it was time. And as well, you know, we all had the little Vespas that would go up and down the road. But the Italian kids and us were all, you know, very tight knit. And my mom was famous for her meatloaf and her red velvet cake. So the Italian kids would all be down for that. Then I would be up at their house for gnocchi that Nonna Bettino would make. And I always kind of joke and remember that Papa Bettino would say, oh, Regina, he would catch me going to the sink to pour out my chalk wine because I thought red stuff. And he would like fill my glass back up and he'd go, no, drink. So, you know.
At what age did you move back to the States?
We moved back to the States as I started junior high. So, and that love and passion. And I still have my doll bed that was made from the Benetton, England. I still have letters and stuff from all the Italian kids that we knew and did Carlavani with and so forth. It was just anybody that is interested in seeing the world, there's no better way than one through the military. And, you know, and travel in general, it enriches every aspect of your life, your heart, your mind, your soul. It broadens your scope for humanity.
I think that the Sunday drives and driving to different places, right? My parents had this thing I got motion sickness, and so they had that was kind of my ammo and why I never had to sit in the middle seat either. So that was my other trick is the middle child. I didn't have to sit in the middle seat because I couldn't get out of the car fast enough. But I do remember each one of those trips, weekend trips, long weekends, Christmas, Thanksgiving, where we would spend that time and just go explore. And definitely, so the question to both of you is, you did things before you did this. How did you end up keeping this passion alive while you had another career?
Just the awe of the vast difference in the three cultures that I experienced very intensely over that time of being there. The British culture, I took tap and ballet, so I was very engaged with the kids in my community there when we lived outside of London. And I have a very precious picture of my family, my brother, my father, and my mom, and we're on the London Bridge, and just having knowing how special each one of those events that we did in England, and spending time with our neighbors, incorporated with them in their daily life, it just made me realize the uniqueness of all of us, and the similarities in all of us, that we're all passionate about who we are, where we come from, what our culture offers, as far as, the literature and the arts of Europe and all their great, their great cities. And just the humanity of it is, we're all the same and yet also different. And that is just charming. The same would be true for, Turkey. We stayed very close to Said, who was very dear to us, because when we got there, we ended up staying for 6 weeks in a hotel in downtown Ankara. And my brothers were very fair-headed and blonde, and they were fascinated with that, of course. And I was fascinated with the food. And so it was just a rich cultural exchange at all times that just kept me going. Through my young eyes, I see a lot. And I hope that people have open hearts, open minds, and their eyes open to the gift of travel, what it offers so far outside of just leisure.
Your passion for travel alive.
Hey, Carolyn, I think your microphone's like wonky or something.
You hear me now?
It sounds like it's breaking up or something. Like I can't even hear you.
Sam, let's see. Sam sent me a note. No. Let me do it again. Let's just see. My microphone looks like it's working.
Regina, can you hear?
Sam, you.
It's a robot.
Yeah, it sounds like there's interference. Well, I think the question was something about my passion for travel is that it? Okay. So I can't seem to get enough of going back to places when I was a child that I didn't fully appreciate. So I can remember every year on my birthday, which is the second week of September, that's when my dad's vacation would be. So I was kind of the spoiled brat that complained that I was going to be in Athens or Barcelona or Hawaii or somewhere on my birthday instead of being home having a birthday party like every other child. I also remember missing out on things like a high school prom and, going to the mall to hang out with friends or all of that cool stuff that my American friends were doing or that I was seeing in movies. So, it was kind of like a give and take situation. But when I was seeing the world, I can remember like not fully appreciating the experience. But then as I got older and I went into the art field, I wanted to go back and see some of the art that I had recently seen but never appreciated. So now I'm looking through a completely different lens when I'm traveling over to places and I'm reconnecting with it, because when I was a child, I didn't fully appreciate. However, I had really kind parents that showed me the value of having an open heart and open mind. And even with what's going on in the world today, I try and use that compassion for other people. Um, and sometimes I throw out there, hey, look, I didn't even live in this country till I was 17 years old. So although I sound very American, I really wasn't raised American. And my compassion runs very deeply for others. And I hope that showing that to my children, I'm kind of turning the page into new chapters for my family. My daughter is a senior in high school, and she is very well traveled because I made sure that she's seen a lot, and she's going into youth ministry. And I'm hoping that her love for the world parlays into youth ministry rather than, the travel business. Of course, this will be something she can fall on, you know. So my passion runs deep for my children's experiences as well.
I love that. So you can hear me? Yes. Why? Look at the host chat.
We'll have to go into the chat.
Um, all right.
Was that a question?
Yes.
Hey, let's just do this. Why don't we just say some of the best places we've been, Regina, and like where we went and how that manifests into experiences for our clients.
I've always been. Let's see. How do I say that? The more removed you can be from the hot spots, the more real the experience becomes culturally. And I think that is, again, back from the fact that my parents, we had dear friends. We didn't hang out with military families and enlisteds and in higher ups or whatever. My dad and mom always put us out. We went to Nonna Patino's to eat most dinners, if and back and forth. The whole Italian kids, everybody that was up and down our gravel lane, and we went to. Like I said earlier, we went upstairs and we spent time with Mr. Zikibe and his family, and exchanged their cultural traditions, with us and vice versa, and as well.
So do you kind of incorporate those experiences that you had with families in making sure that your clients are experiencing kind of the real, cooking classes or experience?
Exactly. Pre-COVID, I was all about, and I had such passion about building in detail the trips that were right down to the very basic of, when you're here, this is what you need to do. You're going truffle hunting and you're going to eat with the family.
Yeah.
You are literally going to go pick berries and, pick grapes, and you're going to experience that. And when you take your drive up through the Dolomites, you're going to stop and pause. You're not just going to make the drive.
Right.
So, that you're and that has been my word ever since COVID is pause, because I think we're all trying to play catch up. And I think everybody's trying to get everywhere as fast as they can. And I'm like, but you're just seeing, you're not experiencing, you're not taking it in, you're not touching, breathing, smelling, you're not eating it, you're not tasting it. It's a spiritual experience as well as a journey. And that's what I try to really get my clients to absorb.
Hopefully you guys can hear me. Yes.
You sound great.
Yay, I'm back. Okay. Thank you for saying that, Regina, because I am constantly saying, here is your itinerary. I've given you time to wander. Please wander. And I remember I had shared last week on the show, I had spent the weekend in New York City, and my family's from there. So I'm pretty familiar. And I was walking with my husband from Chelsea Pier all the way down to Battery Park. And he wanted to hop on the subway to go back. And I'm like, but what are we going back to? Like, we're just going back to the hotel. Like, let's walk. And so we did, and we continued to walk all the way through Chinatown, through Little Italy, through the West Village, all the way back to Chelsea where we were staying. And we would have missed so much had we not just wandered.
Mhm.
We didn't have to be anywhere. So
Mhm.
why was I going to get on the subway? My 2 feet
Exactly.
were working just fine. So it's that sort of, just like you said, immerse yourself. Some people are a little more nervous about that, but I always try to build in wander time. Please just go wander.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's an absolute
Exactly.
there if you're nervous, but please go wander.
Yeah, and I think that we as Americans come by that very naturally to try and get from point A to point B in a rapid manner, and we don't take that time to just experience and breathe in the culture and the surroundings because we're always in a hurry in our country. So that's why it's so nice, especially when we're sending our clients to Europe, for them to understand you're going to enjoy a meal and it's going to be a few hours. You're going to love sitting in a piazza or sitting in a cafe and just watching the world go by. It's, you
Yeah.
know, it's actually, it is such a wonderful experience to be able to share those things with our clients and so they can see it through our eyes. And not that our eyes are any better, but we just know because we lived it and we know like to slow down a little bit.
There's an appreciation for sure. And Regina, I love the fact that you brought up Pisa because I too have a picture of myself and going up at the very top of the Tower of Pisa. And when I went back during college, of course, you could no longer go to the tower.
Exactly.
And so it was really fun. And those two pictures are side by side in a photo album, right? One from many years earlier to college. And that's an experience that a lot of people do have, but not a lot of people that I know have. And
Hmm.
so that's very, very special to me to have that time frame.
Yes,
Right.
I tell my clients not to get too caught up in trinkets and traditional stuff. It's like when you go to San Gimignano or Pienza, I'm like, go to the back wall, look out at the fields, and look at how the vineyards have been laid out and the olive trees, and imagine, years ago what they were doing. And those were our ancestors before they came, I mean, that come to the United States for so many families and
Right.
brought their traditions. And it's like, go back to where all of this started and absorb that.
It
Um,
sounds like you're a very descriptive person, and I've always said that about myself. Words are very important to me more than pictures, right? Shawn, would you say that you're a descriptive person when you're talking to your clients about travel? There's a lot of not you don't overuse words, right? But there's words that you're intentionally using so that they get the feel of
Oh
what you're
yeah,
trying
for
to,
sure.
sell.
Yeah, and I think that's where like the passion comes out, right? Because I'm actually going into descriptive feelings.
Mhm.
And, like Regina said, the senses are what sells. There's just really nothing like having a fresh baguette in Paris or in a surrounding area, or a glass of Merlot or the Nona pasta, or smelling the certain smells. Like there's things like Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, isn't a place that I was able to go back and visit after I left, but now it's opened up to tourism, so I
mhm.
am exploring it. But I can tell you, there's certain smells, especially from the souk, that of spices and perfumes. And if I just get a whiff of that, I can literally start crying because it takes me back to my childhood. And I love sharing that because those are the memories that your clients are sharing with their children to spark interest in travel.
Right.
So being descriptive is really um it really will give you more opportunity to sell travel. You have to just really dive into your experience.
So one final question before I both let you get back to work. Um, you know, the living abroad, the moving, all of that, we painted a very glamorous picture, but there absolutely were probably times where, the heads were butting and we hated moving again and leaving what we were so comfortable with. Did you ever turn around and thank your parents? Did you ever, and at what age were you when you turned around and said, wow, thank you so much for the way I grew up?
You want to go first, Shawn?
Sure. So I think that I always, in the moment, was appreciative. I know this is going to sound kind of like, so my father was an aircraft mechanic, and he actually worked on the royal plane. So with the royal family in Saudi Arabia. So, I always knew that the wealth that surrounded me in all of my situations was not what I came from. Like, that's not what my father was earning. You know what I mean? So, because they kept us very humbled. So I always knew and appreciated the situations. But just so you know, because we are on a very pivotal day in the United States of America, I actually thanked my father this morning on a phone conversation.
Really?
Yeah, it actually was part of a conversation that I had with my father this very morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think because I could see so much peripheral, that days like today in our country softened the blow on my side.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And it's how funny that I asked that question and you just did it this morning. And I actually just had this conversation 2 weeks ago when I was celebrating my dad's 75th birthday. And, moving every 2 years was not necessarily fun, but certainly it has made me the person I am and has allowed me to do this job because and not just this job as education manager, but sell, travel, and be a person who can do that because it requires a certain personality and a certain skill set. And I truly believe that my experiences growing up helped me hone those skills.
And it kind of is a little club of people, expat kids. I mean, when you meet an expat kid, you automatically become part of a secret club.
Yeah. Yeah.
I found that experiencing all these very diverse, between Italy, Turkey, and England, all before and a little sidebar, when I went to kindergarten in Marion, Illinois, and then we went to England. And then when we came back, we lived in Marion again shortly. But when I came back for junior high, and it was so funny. This one girl says to me, she goes, "I think I know you." And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "How would you know me?" And I said, "I came from Wyoming and blah, blah, blah. And we just got back from Italy." And she said, "I don't know, but I know you." And somebody said something. And then I started talking like a British person. And she goes, "Oh, you were in our kindergarten class." So, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I couldn't remember. And they did this whole little story on me in the junior high newspaper called The World Traveler, which I still have a copy of it. But I thrived on moving because it was built into my life, but I thrived on it. And it's something, until I met my husband, Dwayne, I'd never lived anywhere for more than probably 3 years. England. I mean, I went out to California and I went to Nashville and everywhere just because people intrigue me, and culture is everywhere. It's often in our backyard. It's not international abroad with arts and rich histories, but just being around new and unique cultures and people and experiencing them, no matter where they're from or where they're going, is my greatest blessing. And my parents blessed us tenfold with that.
Mm-hmm.
They never hesitated to jump right out in the culture and partake of where we were at.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you both so much. I'm so glad that you were here today, and I thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you again at the next event.
So, thanks for having us. It was fun.
Absolutely, you guys. Thanks for putting up with the sound issue. Keeping it rolling.
Take care. Be
All
well.
right, you guys. Take care. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, thanks for your interaction today. Irene, thanks for being here. I can't wait to meet you in person next week at boot camp. Jeff, love your comments. Annie, yep, you're getting that tattoo. Vicki, always love to see you guys. Have a great rest of your day. Next week, we do a boot camp, so we won't have a show. So we'll see you back here on the 20th. Have a great week, everyone.